Arriving into Stella Sora with a very suspicious camera angle is Firenze. She's our first new Umber tracker, filling in the vanguard position. So, what are her best teammates and build? We'll dive into that on top of emblems and disc calculations. Firenze's two builds focus on either skill or minion damage. The baseline damage between these two builds is very similar, but her ultimate related potentials are so strong that they are worth taking in either build. While her minion build synergizes with these ultimate potentials better than the skill build, the skill build is more flexible in being able to receive buffs from more sources, giving it a higher ceiling. In case you didn't know, most basic buffs don't apply to minions, unless they specifically say they work on all friendly units. Passive effects, such as Cosette's Gift of Darkness, however, will apply. On that note, let's take a look at Firenze's teammate options. Cosette is the first choice due to the massive amount of Umbra support she provides. Mystique offers decent damage overall, and also has a damage taken debuff. As a damage dealer, you'll ideally need a good amount of investment on her, because she only has that one offensive support potential. The rest are personal damage. Coronis is a suitable replacement, requiring very low investment in comparison. Let's take a look at the potentials. Note that the following potential build recommendations are for a neutral environment. That is, not including effects such as those in the current ball splits that specifically buff minion and skill damage. We'll start out by looking at Firenze's skill and ultimate hybrid build. We'll take Step Kicking and Nimble Step as cores. Hunting Command, High Risk, and Place Your Bets are her priority potentials. Dark Parallel and Flash Break have decent value to take after, and a combination of both Instant Liquidation and 1 point of Gloomy Veil is similarly strong. For Cosette, take Eclipse Imprint combined with Phantom Mark for longer debuff uptime. Dark Mirage has the highest priority, with Demon Mark, Afterglow, and Gift of Darkness all very close behind. Nether Blaze is an extremely powerful debuff for bursting. However, because Cosette's rate of energy generation is much slower than Firenze, this may or may not line up properly with your ult timing, depending on how much charge efficiency you have. Next is our favorite witch, Mystique. Take Happy Face and Reality Erosion for your cores. Solar Absorption has solid value. Beyond that, however, Mystique's damage potentials are a fair bit weaker than that of Firenze, when considering similar investment levels. As you're probably going to be force-fed potentials anyway, consider Shadow Shackle, the Conjuring, or Wraith Haunting. If running Coronis, you'll want to take Hormone Elixir and Toxin Infusion as cores. Tag of Fate and Underground Healer are two solid potentials for team support. 1 point in medical research can be taken to accelerate Resilience Break for more consistent bursting. What about Firenze's minion build? Hunting Command remains a priority. After that, Place Your Bets and Instant Liquidation both have high value, as well as 1 point in Accurate Coincidence. Gloomy Veil and Extended Shift are the next priorities. The rest of the team's priorities are very similar. But for Cassette, Dark Afterglow and Void Blessing decrease in priority due to their inability to buff minions. Let's cover Firenze's gameplay real fast. Her basic attack is a 4-part combo, with the second part summoning a clone only if none exist, and the fourth part commanding the clones to dash to the enemy. This is important especially for the minion build, as accurate coincidence shortcuts you to the final basic attack when you use your skill. So ideally, you use your skill after the fourth auto. If you're having trouble seeing the animation properly, you can just look at the clones dashing to know when the fourth auto went off. Before using your ultimate, you want to make sure to have the maximum amount of clones up to maximize the value of instant liquidation. To do this, save 2 charges of your skill and use them before casting your ult. You also want to lead the burst with Cosette's ultimate if using Nether Blaze, and then use your ult shortly after Cosette's skill. How strong are Firenze's talents? These increase her personal damage by just over 50% by talent 5, with each talent having a similar damage gain. Ironically, talent 4, which increases ultimate damage, is the weakest of them all, because her ultimate damage bonus is already very saturated by our potentials. Next, let's look at emblem stats. It should go without saying that charge efficiency on your level 70 and 80 emblems is a very high priority, as Firenze's ultimate potentials are a DPS gain even at 0%. But outside of that, we'll look at the damage value of our other options. On your level 70 emblem, you'll want to get pen, crit rate, skill or minion damage depending on your build, and element damage. For level 80, crit rate and a second line of pen are the top priorities. Because of the hybrid nature of this build, skill and OT plus 3 have a bit lower value, but are still worth picking up. For level 90, you'll want to prioritize levels in Hunting Command, followed by Place Your Bets. On the skill build, High Risk is the next priority. Instant Liquidation has similar value on the minion build, and much lower value on the skill build. For discs, we'll be looking at a table that covers both the isolated value of a disc in the main slot or support slot. As we're getting a lot more 5-star options these days, it's a very important consideration to compare a disc's effects in the main slot to its base stat value. This should help you decide which discs you want to prioritize in the main slots versus those which are just fine being a stat stick in the support slot. Let's start by looking at the main slot value for the skill and OT build. Dream Factory of Truth comes very close to Wisteria Dream here, though Wisteria Dream still pulls ahead despite this not being a minion focused build. The Finale and Standard discs hold similar power, but the Event disc, when maxed out, is technically stronger. This is where we look at the support value though. A lot of the power in the Event disc is in the base stats. That is, you're better off running a disc like Witch's Lean in the main slot, and Bud of Change in the support slot. And speaking of support slot, note that Sunlit Blossom has quite decent value here, due to providing skill damage as a base stat. Alt Element event discs are very competitive, with C1 Umbra 5-star discs as well. For the Minion build variant, the C1 main slot values for most options is a good notch lower. Notably, for Wisteria Dream, the Minion passives are tied to the melody, and thus the crescendo. Witch's Screen has slightly higher value than other options here at C1, but scales a bit less. Support priorities are very similar. Note that an off-element finale disc for ultimate damage has similar value to Sunlit Blossom, but realistically, you'll probably want to use an off-element event disc instead. And that wraps up this Firenze guide. I actually quite like how she builds. We went from characters who only auto and never want to ult, to characters who only want to focus on their ult, to someone who wants to do a bit of both. What do you think? Do you like her design, visually or gameplay wise? Or did you skip? Also, do let me know if the new disc table made sense. I spent hours trying to come up with a design for it before just settling on making a table. Anyway, see you guys next time. Bye bye!